to the website?
I think that there's a 1 p.m. Event in here, so I want to be respectful of those folks. It's Providence College 100th celebration, but I wanted to get into a room and sit down. My name is Gabe. I'm Governor Raimondo's Director of Public Engagement, so I spend a lot of time talking to people outside of the building. She has an event right now on her calendar. She's actually at Tolman High School in Pawtucket talking about her free college proposal. One, which I think, I hope as progressive friends that you could get behind. I have to make a pitch to that in every conversation that I have, but that's a really important one, and one for economic equality and justice. But I know that you're here today with particular concerns around what's happening in Washington and in the White House and the Trump administration on immigration. I understand the fear. The governor understands the fear outside. A few weeks ago, I know she communicated said fear, and the fact that Rhode Island is built upon principles of inclusion, and that it's terribly important that we do everything that we can to fight for the people who are most vulnerable, for the folks who come to our country. I'm sure you remember last fall when there was, and even prior to that actually, when there was a lot of conversation around Syrian refugees, and a lot of the governor's colleagues, other governors around the country said, we don't want Syrian refugees here. The governor took a position vastly different than those in that number to say, no, you're welcome here just like any others. And now we've got something like over 50 Syrian refugee families here in Rhode Island. So, 100. Oh, is that families? Yeah, families. Yeah, I think it's over 100 people. But over 50 families. And in fact, I was lucky enough to join the governor for dinner 2 weeks ago at a new Syrian restaurant in Cranston with the first Syrian refugee family that came in the most recent wave. She had met them at Dorcas last spring. So I know that she can't be here, and in her stead, I am redoubling, her commitment to making sure that we protect the most vulnerable people in our state, make sure that all Rhode Islanders, whether they're new Rhode Islanders by circumstance of issues in the places that they stay, or folks who have been here a long time, who have raised their families, who have paid taxes, that we are working to protect those folks. So, I'm not her, but if somebody has a question, I'm happy to answer. A couple. I'm not the press guy, but I'm happy to take a few.
Thank you for your time, Gabe. Thank you for letting us come talk to you here. And we appreciate the governor's past action and the words she said on the steps out there a few weeks ago. But I think the concern is around what she said 2 days later on NPR about if the federal government threatens to withhold funds, all bets are off. So what specific policies and when can we expect a public announcement of specific state police policies that would protect minors who are have reasonable cause but have not been convicted of any crime?
I think
prevent them from being deported.
I think we're not going to do anything different than we're doing right now.
No, but what we're doing right now is now different because we used to be reporting to ICE and the FBI about people with reasonable cause, but that was a different administration. And
I don't want to get into the depth of that because, one, I think we're operating in a space, and I want to take another couple people on knowing that we've got another event in here, but I would say the governor's commitment is the same. We're going to keep doing what we're doing here.
Yeah, but that's not what we're saying. We wanted you to do something different. We want to know when you're going to tell us how it's going to be different.
Again, my position is consistent with the governor's in the sense that we are going to continue to make this Rhode Island a place where people are protected. So what I'm saying is, from the federal government, there's been no new decree to the states, to the governor on anything. So
Really? What about the executive order?
the executive order that is mired in issues in the courts. It hasn't. It hasn't.
Not talking about the immigration ban, we're talking about the other executive order.
Again, from the perspective.
Making a priority to the January 25th.
From the perspective, we have not been at the state level communicated with on the specifics of that. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm happy to follow up with you at length, but there has been no direct communication in that sense to say, state, you do something differently than we've done before. And so if we can talk about that, I will triple confirm that.
Asking you to do something differently.
But what I'm saying now, I can't make any commitment on that, and I'm saying that the governor has been consistent in her public position on making sure that she's not going to change the way that we're doing things here in Rhode Island.
Question.
Yeah.
ICE confirmed that they were using the new standards of the newest executive order. So that's the concern. It's not something forthcoming that will later be like ICE is always
but you're
going by.
And again, I do want to say I can happily return to you, but you're talking about ICE directives, and I'm speaking from the position of from the governor. So we're talking about an ICE directive that is directed out of Washington versus now you're seeking something different.
Yes, but directed to work with local law.
Exactly, and the governor, and so if you've seen, what the state police has said, if you've seen what the governor has said, they have been consistent on what their practices are.
No, excuse me. The inconsistency is appearing outside there and talking at that immigration rally, saying we're all in this together, and then 2 days later, being videotaped on WGBH, saying, when questioned about if federal funds were threatened to be withheld, and then
and again, where
the statement was,
Yeah.
we have to reconsider.
And I looked up a transcript. I think that the governor's point there is that, one, she doesn't believe that they have any authority to do this. There are a lot of ambiguous, non-specific hypotheticals, and the governor's point is, look, I'm going to continue to do my job and fight for Rhode Islanders, A. B, I don't think that this can happen. And C, if that were the case, I'm going to do everything to fight for this federal funding and maintain that federal funding.
Can we get that ambiguity out of there and have her?
Well, that ambiguity is not built
But we
on
have to
by
make a
statement.
I think her statement said there's nothing ambiguous in her statement.
Well, I guess
Based on- based on-
I'll say to you again, the governor has said that she will do everything to protect Rhode Islanders and not lose any federal funding, though that is not a possibility on the horizon right now.
So we need a reaffirmation back to the.
Well, that's the same thing that she said. I looked at the transcript. That's what she said. I'm not going to lose any of this federal funding.
She means she's going to fight for it.
Exactly.
Not that she's going to side with the.
Yes, exactly. So
that
she's.
does need to be clarified.
This is a clarification. I'm going to fight if I'm the governor, and I'm not. So I'm going to fight for Rhode Islanders and make sure we don't lose a penny.
So do you understand what was confusing about that?
I get it. I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, again, we're talking about a hypothetical that does not exist. So and that's what creates that's what.
So we want to just be assured that the contingency is in place.
Yes. So what again? I would say to you that the governor. We rely on those funds, and she will fight for every single penny and make sure that none of that is gone.
Is that all funds or a portion of funds?
How
much funds are we talking about?
Oh, well, I mean, the federal transfers to the state are across programs, everything from roads and bridges to human services. But again, this is the problem, right? You're identifying funds, and this is ambiguous.
But he's already directly threatened another state.
Directly.
Again,
and this is the craziness of.
You have to be, proactive. And so from say, like the California governor said, if that becomes the case.
From our office's position, again, this is the thing. We have not heard from this is not. I'm not just making it up. They're not talking to us about specific things that they're going to do.
Well, you're saying it's far away, but it's really not far away.
I mean, these things are not.
I don't know if it's close or if it's far away. We don't know that this is all.
Right, but maybe,
This is the black box.
maybe Rhode Island shouldn't consider itself to be isolated and she should be speaking out for what's happening.
And the governor speaks with other governors across the country all the time.
They need to get together.
Yeah, I think, I mean, aside from the Trump agenda, I think there are real things that the governor is working on every day to make sure our state works. And so there's
Specifically about this issue.
And I think when asked, she addresses the topic.
We're asking.
Again. This is my point. She's not here in the building, and she had something pre-scheduled and couldn't be here, and I came to you to say that she'll continue to fight for all
So
Rhode
I think the
Islanders.
message is to bring to her is that we would like a public statement of her support because of this ambiguity that has come up.
Well, I think she has already made public statements of.
But we don't agree, so that's why we need, and then why can't you, if she's consistent with her message, why can't
I don't mean to erase my voice, and I want to make sure everybody hears me, so I don't want you to misconstrue that as me yelling. And with the point that the governor said, look, I don't think that they're two separate things, that she will fight for all Rhode Islanders and will make sure it will try her best to make sure that this.
So if they threaten to take away $3 billion, how many will we turn over? A dozen? 100? 1,000?
Well, see, that's not a fair question, and that's where I'm going to stop, because I'm going to stop because this isn't a press conference, and I'm not here in that capacity. But I'll take a couple more quickly.
she hears what we say?
Yes, without a doubt. That there's no question about that. The governor will hear what you said. I will, as soon as she gets back, talk to her about it.
I think that, like, for me, like, my frustration and my anxiety comes from the fact that another group could come in right after we leave and say, you know what, we don't care about immigrants, we don't care about ICE, we care about federal funding. And you can point to the same quote and say, well, actually, look, listen, she said she's going to fight for federal funding. So, I mean, I think there's going to come a day, and I think it's going to come soon, when we're going to have to pick one, protect Rhode Islanders, or two, protect our federal funding. And I think we really, really need her to say, it's going to be the protecting Rhode Island.
All I say to you is a lot of this, again, this is a tough conversation from all perspectives, and I feel like many of you that it's written with confusion and fear because we don't know what's on the other side. But the governor has made a firm commitment that to protect folks and also to fight for funds. I don't think those are inconsistent because those connect. Those funds connect to people. And so these are not separate concepts. They fit together.
They're not separate, but they need to be prioritized. We need her to make it clear that it's people first and then money.
Well, and that's an exercise that I'm just, to be completely respectful, I don't think you can do that at this juncture. That's me personally.
Can't she?
I'm just saying from the exercise, you understand how hard that is a thing to say at this point. So I would say those two things of protecting people and funds coexist. I know exactly the answer that you want. I'm just saying I don't think that's it's a fair response to give at this point. But again, listen to her words, and I would say that whether it's outside there, whether it's on the radio, it's protecting Rhode Islanders and making sure that the funds that we're dependent on are protected as a safe thing. Well, see again, I don't think that's fair. I just don't think that's fair because that's not the assessment that anybody is making. I would say
Well,
that.
then I think it is important that this gets clarified because everyone in this room misconstrued that. So if we misconstrued it, then there's a large group of people misconstrued it. That's number one. Number two, I just want to get back to the point if you could talk to her about what she said. She said about there are other governors in other states that are going to be threatened by this, and there's safety and unity in numbers, so she kind of needs to reach out to them and do the same thing.
Yeah, and they talk a lot.
You can threaten federal funding. Let's face it, you're saying it's hypothetical, but everything he said during the campaign, he's tried to implement. So if he's already going places, he continues to be the president, and he's going on saying, I'll take your funding away to California, we'll be next.
Well, and
I hear that point.
I think what you need to do is reach out to like-minded governors and say, under no circumstances are we gonna tolerate being bullied and being, because that's bullying.
And saying those things publicly.
Right.
Because I think it's
I mean,
very,
I think there's been a lot said publicly. I just think there's a little parsing that's happening at this point. But I think she has said, sometimes I think, with politicians, everywhere need to be, perfect. But I will make sure to send both the emails that she's sent out and public statements. But we have been, she has been out there and said much on the topic when asked. So I'll make sure that's one of my do-outs from our conversation. What's that?
Will the governor meet with this group?
I gotta look into it. It's not a no. Scheduling is always, as someone who oversees the schedule, scheduling is always a challenge. But I'm happy to look into it. And that's another do-out that I'll take.
I'd like to know, can you be more specific on why she couldn't be here today?
She's got a public event right, like at this moment, talking to high school students about the possibility of.
I just don't know if you clarified that already.
Oh yeah. No, that's 100%. It's well, and frankly, I would say, I advised this in a conversation earlier. If she's not, the governor isn't always here. The governor is a public person. She's traveling and talking to people across the state about making things work and working. So. Just showing up, just in the same difference if you're going to a congressional office with these guys in Washington all the time, you may not get them.
So also, as mentioned, the other governors that are being threatened with being taken away from the federal funding, can't she, if she's going to hold true to her word about protecting these immigrants, can't she reach out to them and she has, I'm sure, a vast amount of resources to come up with a comprehensive plan, to put in place if that were to happen?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, our team has talked about these things, but it's like, what are you planning for? You can only do, so much. So I go back to where she's got a commitment, and the team that she's assembled is going to do what they need to do to hold to those commitments.
More public about, what she.
Yeah, it's just she's been public. I mean, she can't have a press conference every day on the topic. There are different things that we're doing, but now that we've talked, she's been at events. We can when asked and as things happen, she will make her voice heard, and that's something she said specifically. And I have no doubt that that'll be the case. Oh wait, I'm sorry. You, I think you had your hand up.
Thanks again for talking to us. I want to pull out a couple of things we've been hearing. One is we're really asking for our representatives to be proactive right now. We want to support you in that process. And the other thing is a plan. We really want to have a plan, not just know that when the time comes, we step up and fight. No, what are we doing now to protect all of our rights? And we think those are going to be good things for the state moving forward, whatever happens in the future. So I think that's a real part of the ask of this group.
I hear you. So sorry, I'm going to get you next.
Yeah,
you next, and then I think we'll give the room up.
So I've heard her say a number of times that she will fight to protect all of Rhode Islanders, and I'm also hearing that she plans to do that through ensuring that we keep federal funding. What I am not hearing is an unequivocal statement saying, I will fight for undocumented Rhode Islanders. Because I think that's what we're really talking about. But when we say all Rhode Islanders, I don't hear that direct statement about who.
Yeah, I don't think that's missing from it. I just mostly because that's just the words that I've chosen this one, but I don't think it's. She's said Rhode Island's a place for all, no matter who you love, what your race is, what your immigration status is. And so I'm doubling down on that. Regardless of your immigration status, who you love, what your race is, etc.
So to get real specific on that, for things that are within the state's control, can you report back to us on what the state police's policy will be going forward on reporting undocumented immigrants to ICE and FBI?
I promise I'd get back to you.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic, thank you.
We work on the driver's licenses. numbers. Because that, I mean, that's one way to protect undocumented people.
And I think she's been very, very clear on that one. But you do know that that there are checks and balances in government, and she cannot unilaterally do it.
Well, she did promise to do that during the campaign.
I realize that, and she realizes that too. But she cannot do that unilaterally.
She can't do an executive order and make it happen?
She cannot do an executive order.
Why?
It's long, but I'll tell you the short part of it is that we also have a legislature, and they can act as well.
Right. Yeah, they could, but I mean, only after she does it, right?
And I'll say it again. If the governor cannot act unilaterally on the issue, and she's said that numerous times.
But not during the campaign. But she didn't say it during the campaign.
You've reported. Yeah, she did. Yeah, exactly.
She didn't say, during the campaign. She did not say that.
I realize that, but I'm telling you right now.
Right.
As governor.
Yeah.
Notice the difference.
I know. When you're a governor, you don't have to keep your promises. The second thing is.
Okay, that's what I'm sorry. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you.
You know, by the way, this room is open till 3. That next event is until 3.
Well, I have on a calendar.
It starts at 3. The calendar you sent to me.
I'm saying, but what I'm saying is, I don't know. I just looked at the calendar that checks the room, and I was told that this room is held for them starting at 4. So,
Right, but it's only not even 12:30.
Okay, so I'm happy to talk for a bit longer, but this isn't a press conference per se. I came to greet you guys and have a conversation. Exactly, but that is. I'm just saying, we can talk some more, but if this were...
I'm sorry to jump in, by the way.
Can we then take the meeting off the record, please?
What's that?
Could we, because I don't want to speak in this form, I'd like to...
It would be up to them. If you wanted me to turn off the camera, I can, but it's up to them. I don't want to...
Okay, okay, we can continue to talk on the camera. I just wanted to come... Yeah, exactly, but I'm just not the governor herself, and I'm not her press team, but happy to continue the conversation.
And we appreciate your time.
Yes.
Oh, that's fine, that's
Let
fine.
me know you're not talking for her, so if anything...
No, I certainly...
If anything, a little out of turn...
Yeah, I just don't want this to be, you know, a press conference per se. You know, that's all. That's all. Oh, I'm speaking very comfortably.
You're not the only.
No, and I know, frankly, the thing that I would say to you is we're on the same team. We are on the same team. We want the same things, and this is not. That's the point that you know I made earlier today. I think is that you know the antagonism between folks who are like-minded isn't going to get us anywhere, and we need to work together on this stuff, especially in these times.
Yeah,
especially in these times.
But I think I would say, I feel like a little like we're yelling and we're freaking out and we're upset. But I would say that the flip side of that is, I think there is going to be a day probably where she is going to have to choose the money or the people. And like, we're here upset and anxious right now, but if she really gets up on that day and is like, people, like we're there, you know what I mean? And I think like that's like where I'm coming from is I've been really pleased with a lot of things that she's done. I've been really pleased with things that she's said, and I feel supportive of her. And that's why when she says these things that are like ambiguous or not, then you know we get really upset because we do feel like we do want to support her, and we want her to know that if she does the right thing, we are going to support her.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that you're not alone, and that the support is important. I mean that genuinely. I think that when 7,000 people come on the back steps of this building, that's important, and I think that's something that she certainly doesn't discount, and that's why I think your message is something that I'm going to take back to her, make sure that she knows that we had this conversation, and that there are real people who are thinking and concerned and are worried and this is a tough time to live in, and I don't think that we have all the answers on what they're going to do, and that's what makes this conversation difficult because it's not like I can come armed with a bunch of policy prescriptions, because you sort of have to respond to those things as they are, not as what they could be. But our team, the governor's team, and she is thinking very hard and having the conversations that we need to have about what needs to happen.
Why?
Someone, sorry. It varies. It varies. We have sometimes. We've done some partnership with a couple of the news stations who have put them on. So it hasn't been on a consistent basis, but it's something that we might do again. At some point. And if that's the case, you'll know about it. But I would say there are lots of forums by which to get to her, and we'll make sure that that those are opportunities. The other thing that we have going is we do have a petition that is on the governor's website against any of the president's actions or conversations about actions on the issue. So we've got a petition there she sent out to her email list. We've also got, if you want to, call in or write in, all those things are important, and I think they're a great part of the exercise of democracy. I certainly will give you my, email address and telephone number. Feel free to use that. Again, this is your, right to contact the people who you elect. So
I'd like to second the kind of request for a town hall meeting. I think, as you said, and I think we all feel, these are very unusual times, and we need access to our governor to be able to learn what she's going to do to protect Rhode Islanders. What are the things that she can do to protect us against the Trump agenda? And as many people have said, those sorts of things are going to be a good thing for her to do so that we can all get on the same page. There is no ambiguity about the message, and we know that she's behind, especially the most vulnerable populations in Rhode Island.
Okay. Yeah, again, we're on the same team. So, that's one of many tools to interact. Assuming it's a conversation. But yeah, I mean, you being here now, this is important. So, I do thank you all for taking the time out of your day to come up to the State House. It's not an easy thing. I know some of you have never been activists or active or anything before, but this moment in time made you compelled your action. And that's important. I do this for a living, but you're taking your time to do this, so that's important.
Just the governor should know that we came from all over the state today.
Where did you come from?
I came from Narragansett. I drove up here, and I understand the position that she's in. Trump likes to throw some information out there to gauge reaction, so I understand that it's a wait and see a little bit. As long as she knows what she is, and we're behind her if she's doing the right thing.
There's someone new back here. Okay.
I'm wondering what media outlets she's going to use possibly to address these specific concerns.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you on that. I'm not the press guy or the comms guy, but I will take your concerns. It may not be as formal as she does interviews all week, and cameras are in her face all the time. So there's a constant stream of questions and opportunities for people to speak to her. But let me take this specific question back, because that's not my job.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering, coming here tonight, like how I can best find her response to.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think some really good ways to do that is sign up on our website for our email list. You're going to get inundated with some things that aren't germane to this topic. I think that's certainly one. Twitter, she tweets very actively all day, so that's another method. Our Facebook, there are lots of posts, lots of those things. So social is probably the shortest path, but let me take your specifics.
You said there were Syrian families that had started a restaurant?
But they're not a refugee family, but they are a family of Syrian folks in Cranston, Rolfe Square. Mosaic, yes. And it was really good. I had leftovers for like 3 days, but they were great, and it was good to spend time with the family, the Al-Hariris, at the restaurant, and just hear about the experience here. You know, 3 kids in Providence Public Schools. You know, both older boys working, or one was looking for a job, another working, to younger girls, and mom and dad. So yeah, I mean, they're like everybody else, just trying to make it. So.
As a Syrian American myself, who's born and raised in Rhode Island, I gotta say that I always felt comfortable, really, in the state up until this point. And I think the atmosphere really has changed. I know that there's a lot of like allies and whatnot here, but the opposite of that too is there's a lot of more hate and vitriol. Yeah, just in general.
Yeah, I think again, I just speaking from my perspective, I think there's a lot happening in this country that's not comfortable. You know, I'm a child of immigrants as well, and so I sort of know what that experience is, and the fact that it's more different now than it has been in recent times is not a positive development. And you know, think about our Syrian population is biggest in the country, and that's you had something else.
I just think it's difficult to encourage tolerance and accepting of people when the highest person in office, the President of the United States, is pretty much saying the opposite.
Yeah.
So, and I think that really just trickled down to the people. And I personally have heard things, and I've felt it more than ever in my 26 years, past year and a half.
And that includes 9/11.
Yeah, worse than that.
Yeah.
Worse than 9/11.
Post 9/11, yeah.
Well, this is why the role of president is that, you know, I worked with Barack Obama for 3 years before I moved back home to Rhode Island, and who the president is matters a lot. Not just from being that close to, but being that close and not being that close to. Being here and seeing, you know, the difference. Every day I sort of shake my head and wonder.
Craft trickles down to, you know, they go sort of economics.
Yeah, well, there's no military term to that effect. I don't know. It's sad. But it also means that, you know, we here, and this is why you're here. You know, have to, like, as individuals, as citizens, as neighbors, and all that, redouble our commitment to each other. And that sounds, you know, cute, but I think it's an important thing that you all have taken many steps towards. You know, we need more, you know, people.
Well, maybe that's a way that she can suggest to her that instead of even in her programming being reactive to like somebody inviting her to Syrian refugees, maybe she can.
Well, that was her.
Oh, that was her.
That was her. She woke up one morning, texted and said,
"I want to bigger." You know what I mean? A little more. Like
yeah, I think so.
Summer's coming up, but you know, maybe the state could do some kind of.
I'll tell you something. We got some letters from some children at the Islamic School of Rhode Island right after the inauguration. The kids were scared, and they said, you know, what's going to happen to us? And one of the things the governor did, she invited a bunch of families to her State of the State. And spend some time with them afterward, and you know, reassure them that as long as she's governor here, that you know, she would do whatever she could to make them feel like this is their home too. So I know there's and that's stuff that's behind the scenes stuff. That's not stuff that's all, you know, on the camera. So I'm sharing this with you, and not in the hopes that you necessarily tell everybody, but know that you know, there is a range of things. There's the leadership that, you know, that you present from the policy, and there's also leadership that you know, in your life and in the symbolic part of it, where you speak to people and interact, that she's carrying out as well.
Is she planning to go to the candlelight vigil on Wednesday evening?
I haven't seen an invite for that, but if you send me something, I can see.
I'll
Send it to me. And my email address is, I have 7 letters in my name, so it's really simple. It's Gabe, GABE.AMO@governor.ri.gov. So GABE.AMO@governor.ri.gov. G-O-V. Yeah.
Thank you, Gabe. And, you know, I'm really excited about the kind of like meeting people where they're at. Events you've been talking about, going to the restaurant and things like that, I think are really great. So following up on the one in the back's question about communication, I think it'd be really exciting for people to see like Spanish language communication about how the state is acting to protect.
Yeah, well, we translate a lot of, almost every one of our Facebook posts for the past 6 months in Spanish.
It'd be great to go out and talk to the community.
Yeah, exactly, and that's, you know, some of that is you know, stuff that we do regularly. I usually bring in, you know, a group maybe once a quarter from various constituencies, and they're that, you know, next up on the list. But we also go to a lot of events, and she's on Spanish speaking radio 3 or 4 times a month. Cool. So again, that's not all. That's not necessarily hitting everybody here, but that's happening on Latina, on Power 10. I forget all the stations now. Okay. But she goes on actually fairly regularly.
I know it is short notice. It is tomorrow night. It's a vigil for Muslim children at the Islamic, the mosque in Smithfield. And I mean,
I actually, and just knowing the schedule off of the top of my head, I'll be there. I'll be there, I promise you that. I don't know what's on my calendar, I'll cancel whatever it is.
But she needs to know that Muslim kids are really being targeted in school.
Yeah, no, I heard something.
My daughter's homeschooled now. It's not, all the kids I'm talking to, I mean, one little girl's a refugee, she didn't know what sticking up the middle finger was. She said, I don't know, all day long people are doing this to me. So she's walking around school and people are just like sticking up their middle fingers at her. You know, so it's an issue.
No, I think, you know, and I don't know if it's you know, what it is, social media or whatever it is, but I feel like it's more now. Yeah, and that's our leaders matter. Our leaders matter. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. I just want to say quickly in closing, thank you. I didn't plan on being on camera today, so thank you for reporting. I think what you're doing is important. Please stay in contact with me. I don't mean that to shoo you off. I mean, I get a lot of volume, but I will do my best to churn it back out. And you know, let's continue the conversation and
Give
help
us
each
your
other.
email again.
GABE.AMO@governor.ri.gov. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Gabe.